Minister, you're very welcome. An Bord Pleanála is due to make a decision in September on the planning application by Shannon LNG Limited for a proposed LNG terminal on the Tarbert-Ballylongford land bank. The company behind the proposed plant has stated that the Shannon LNG terminal could be built in 12 months and could even be built to accommodate a gradual transition to green hydrogen production in the future, aiding Ireland in reaching its climate targets as well as bolstering our energy security. Indeed, a spokesperson for An Taoiseach said earlier this month that he is especially keen to assess the proposed plant's capabilities with regards to green hydrogen production and that he believes there is a real potential for this in the Shannon estuary. Indeed, Minister Ryan also spoke very much in favour of green hydrogen when in the House debated my motion on energy back in May. The question was asked, will Shannon estuary go to green hydrogen, and if it will go to, or if not, will it go to green fossil fuels? Well, what if it could do both? LNG in the medium term, the hydrogen in the long term, Minister Ryan said during the May debate in relation to hydrogen, that in 10 years' time, that is where the investment will be. But what of those 10 years? Are families then to accept that the energy prices will continue to climb while the scientists and the engineers work to make hydrogen economically viable and attractive to investors? Or should we take up an offer to increase the national supply of electricity with a new plant which could green itself over its lifetime? Obviously, we await the decision of An Bord Pleanála. And even so, the programme for government explicitly states that the project does not have the support of the government, who had it withdrawn from the EU projects of common interest list last year. An Taoiseach said this month that the concept of a terminal which could transition to LNG production was interesting, but that given the time it would take to construct the terminal, it won't solve the current energy crisis. But I'm not sure anyone positing that such a terminal could be a fix or a total fix. Rather, it could be a useful measure to help in building up the country's security and lowering the cost of living. What kind of approach is it to refuse a partial solution or a step towards one in favour of waiting until a perfect one comes along, so that we can fail to implement successive suggestions over the course of months or years, and then when people point out that the problem persists, respond with, oh well, it's very complicated and we can't possibly fix it overnight, there's no silver bullet here. There will never be a silver bullet for energy, for housing, for economic downturns, for viruses. We need to take what help we can to make things better for the people on the ground. There's a reason that climate activism is the priority solely for the First World, because basic needs must be met first, and in here and now, before people can have the luxury of engaging in it. And I guarantee you that if we polled the people of Ireland and asked if they preferred a slashed energy bill or meeting climate targets, you'd see the truth of that statement. It mightn't be the fault of the government that this energy crisis has happened and that they didn't see it coming, but faults will lie with the government if it fails to react to it. And a hybrid LNG hydrogen terminal at the Shannon estuary might be just the reaction we need. And so I'm asking the government to consider its position to the plan in light of this, so it will benefit us in the medium and long term, Minister.
Yeah, thank you indeed, Senator Keogan. Minister Smith, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Senator Keogan, for raising this important matter. The National Energy Security Framework, which was published in April 2022, provided a single overarching and an initial response to address Ireland's energy security needs in the context of the war in Ukraine. It coordinates work connected to energy security across the electricity, gas and oil sectors, and it sets out a whole-of-government response to the challenges posed to energy security and energy affordability. As set out in this framework, my department is carrying out a review of the energy security of Ireland's electricity and gas networks. This review is focused on the period to 2030 in the context of net zero emissions by 2050. It is considering the risks to both natural gas and electricity supplies and a range of potential measures, including the need for additional capacity of indigenous renewable energy, but also to import energy such as liquid natural gas, energy storage, fuel diversification and renewable gases such as hydrogen. the underlying technical analysis is being updated to take into account the war in Ukraine. The completion of the review, as set out in the National Energy Security Framework, is scheduled for delivery in the third quarter of this year, and following this, the results will be brought to Government. The Government policy statement on importing frack gas was approved by Government and published in May of 2021. This policy statement provides that, pending the outcome of this review, it would not be appropriate for the development of any LNG terminals in Ireland to be permitted or proceeded with. So as of now, the review is ongoing, and the results have yet to be submitted to Government. In relation to hydrogen, hydrogen can be produced through a number of processes from a wide range of sources, including fossil fuels, nuclear energy, biomass and renewable energy sources. The energy source, the production process and the byproducts influence how carbon-intensive hydrogen is. Different colours are used to indicate how the hydrogen is produced, the energy sources used and the carbon intensity of the hydrogen. Green hydrogen is sustainably produced from renewable electricity and it has zero carbon intensity, while other types of hydrogen produced from fossil fuels are not of zero carbon intensity, and they can be classified as either grey or blue hydrogen depending on the technology used to produce them. So, for example, grey hydrogen is produced using natural gas and a reformer, and blue hydrogen is produced using natural gas, a reformer and carbon capture and storage. Hydrogen produced from LNG is not classified as green hydrogen. Ireland's policy is that hydrogen ought to be produced and deployed in the Irish energy system in a way that is coherent with our decarbonisation goals, and in particular to avoid any potential lock-in of non-greenhouse gas renewable hydrogen use that fails to align with Ireland's target of achieving net zero by 2050. Ireland has a massive offshore wind potential, and the production of green hydrogen from variable renewable electricity could help Ireland to fully utilise its renewable resources to decarbonise, reducing significant levels of curtailed renewables and improving energy security. And so therefore our priority is for green hydrogen sustainably produced from renewable sources, and I thank Senator Keogan for raising this issue, and I look forward to hearing the views of any of the senators. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister Smith. Senator Keogan, do you want?
Minister, look, I appreciate your answer. And look, I suppose we're not just waking up to the fact that Ireland has a massive offshore wind potential in 2022. I mean, we've always known this. The wind has been blowing there for donkey's years. It just didn't start blowing now. And, you know, the fact that we haven't, and we're only talking about this now, it's just not good enough. We are in a very serious energy crisis. This particular LNG proposal could help us get out of that crisis as a nation. We have the deepest water in Europe for cargo shipping, a floating storage and regasification unit, which is a ship will have LNG storage capacity of up to 8 days demand to Ireland. So that really is something that we need to take into account. This planning is now bogged down with Penala. I know the issue of concern around the application for the people that some of that source gas was going to come from fracking in the United States. I'm just wondering if the company gave a commitment that natural gas would be sourced from the Middle East, would that satisfy the concerns that you might have? This, you know, is this time we're living in. The people are really at the pin of their collar, putting in petrol in their car. The energy costs are growing daily. We have to react to that. We need to do something, Minister.
Thank you very much indeed.
And the buck stops with
Thank
the Green
you,
Party
Senator
here.
Keogan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Keogan, indeed. And
Thank you.
Minister, for the last word, please.
Thank you, Senator. So, for a start, I absolutely agree we need to accelerate our deployment of renewable energy. And with the Ukraine war, suddenly there's been a new focus where other countries across Europe have said that they need to accelerate as well. The EU Council of Ministers sat down and said we need to bring in a new package which they're calling Repower EU, which will involve greater ambition on the level of renewables that can be deployed. Now, part of that plan is to source fossil fuel energy from countries other than Russia, and you find other means to do that. And also part of that plan is to reduce the period of time it takes to obtain planning permission for renewable energy down to between 1 year and 2 years. They want EU countries to designate special areas as going faster areas for renewable energy, and we're going to be taking part in that. I'm sorry it didn't happen sooner. If I'd been involved, it would have, as you can imagine. You talk about, Senator Keogan, you mentioned about the possibility of reusing a terminal, an LNG terminal, for the export of hydrogen. There are two basic types of terminal. There are import terminals and export terminals. We are looking at developing export terminal for hydrogen in the form of liquid ammonia, which could be used by other countries that might need it. Ammonia is more energy dense than hydrogen and a more feasible solution. There is no silver bullet for energy, as you say. What we need is a combination. We don't want all our eggs in one energy basket. We need the diversity and the strength that comes and the resilience that comes from using multiple sources of energy, so that if one of them is unavailable or incredibly expensive or fails for some reason or related to the weather, that we have this backup of these different systems. And combined with that is to have good grid connections interconnecting us with other countries. We're developing a Celtic interconnector to connect our grid to the French. We have multiple connections to the UK, but we're looking at other countries as well. Thank you.